If this is your first time here, my name is Kendrick. I'm the host of this episode that you are getting ready to watch. Wanted to give you all this video before you actually watch. There were some minor technical errors, maybe major technical errors. So, viewing this episode may be a little bit difficult because it does go from one speaker to another, or the speaker and myself probably almost about every 5 to 10 seconds. So this may be a video where you just want to watch or listen to instead of actually watching. However you watch it, we definitely appreciate you taking the time, and we hope you have fun listening to this episode. There were a lot of topics that we talked about. To support what it is that I'm doing here, I just ask y'all to like, subscribe to the page, leave comments. Let us all know what you liked about the episode, what you didn't like about the episode. Let us know if there are topics that you want us to talk about. So, again, I thank you for taking the time to watch this rather long video. I believe it's about an hour and 30 minutes. Don't feel like you have to watch it all in one sitting. We did kind of get on to side conversations. We didn't follow the plan, but that happens sometimes. And as many of you may know, you've got four speakers: myself, Dr. E, Grant, and Vince. We all like to talk, and so those type of things happen. But again, if you are going to be watching the episode, you may be better off just listening to it, because again, it does go from the actual speaker and then myself quite frequently throughout the video. Again, thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and we hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed making it. Welcome back to the second conversation in regards to mental health in the Black community. My name is Kendrick. One of the reasons why I put this together is many of us know in our Black community we are struggling mentally and spiritually. And I wanted to bring information to our community centered around mental health, and also bring men that have gone through their mental health struggles, and showing that we can do this. We can get the help that we need. We just have to trust in the process of things. We got a packed show today, but before we get started, just kind of a recap of the last show. If you haven't watched it, be sure to go on my YouTube, Kendrick Coates. I've got the video uploaded there. We discuss mental health in the Black community, and there is a story in there that many of you have not heard. I suggest you take the time to take a look at that video. It is powerful. Many of us in our community, we go unheard and we go unseen. So if you can take the time to check out this video, that'd be greatly appreciated. The other thing before we get started is there may be things that come up in this conversation that may be triggering. Some of the topics that may come up may take you back to old childhood wounds. Wherever you are, wherever you're listening, be sure that you are in a safe space. Do whatever you need to make sure that you're safe and comfortable within your space. So, without further ado, we've got a great panel today, and I'll let them introduce themselves, starting with our great guest, Dr. E. Dr. E has a long history of his own success, and he'll be glad and happy to share that with y'all.
Hey, what's going on? I'm the good Reverend Dr. E. That is my stage name. It is a given name. I didn't select that much title for myself. But yeah, no, that's me. I love making people happy. I'm a genuine smile slinger. And any day that I can continue to smile and make other folks more aware of this black man, this black magic that's going on out here, than I can. So it's really good to be on the panel. Thank you so much, Kendrick, for allowing me to be here again, and I can't wait.
I appreciate you being here, and thank you for sharing. Vince, you're back for a second show. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Happy to be here. Vince Bracy, the hardest working man in showbiz. I gave myself that name, but also people have called me that many times before. I get that from my personal battles with mental health and how hard I've had to work to get to where I'm at today. I'm also an entertainer. I got to give Kendrick some props. You got three hosts on the show, man. You're killing it right now, doing your thing. Right. Yeah, I'm all about mental health, advocacy, if you will, and making sure people are having the best time ever and following their dreams. Nice to be here.
Appreciate you being here for a second time, Vince. Grant Jones.
Yes, sir. The ultimate entertainer is in the building. My name is Grant Jones. I love entertaining. I'm a host. I'm a DJ. I'm a comedian. So that's why I call myself the ultimate entertainer. Happy to be here, gentlemen. I know each and every one of you so well, and it's a privilege and honor to talk about something that means really deep in my heart, Black health and just Black excellence at its finest. Let's get it better. Let's get it going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you and thank you for being here again. So before we get into this conversation, as I mentioned in the beginning, in our community, many of us men go unseen and go unheard. And so I want to do a mental check-in. I want to know where y'all are at spiritually, mentally, and physically. So we'll go ahead and start off with Grant.
Yes, sir. Physically, I'm good. I'm feeling good. And just went on a boat. They said the guns were looking a little big this summer. A little hot boy summer. Feeling good. Mentally, I will give myself scale of 1 to 10. Probably give myself a 7. Doing good. Got a nice meditation in. Spiritually, kind of goes all around. It's all inclusive. So same 7, and then mental and physical 7 as well. So all sevens right here.
Synchronicity.
Yes,
Love it.
sir. 777. Let's go.
Vince, how about you?
See, I'm glad we did this mental health check-in because I've been trying to make it a habit of actually letting people know how I'm feeling when they say, "How you doing?" I didn't know we were doing ratings though. I would say spiritually, I'm doing great. Spiritual, optimism is always there. Physically, I got some stuff to work on. I got haven't been going to the gym as much as I would have liked, but this is something that you got to be conscious of. And mentally, I will admit that I am actually struggling right now. I had therapy yesterday, and again, I'm always, pretty optimistic. Uh, I think I said in the last episode that I was diagnosed with ADHD last year around this time, and just found out my medication is on back order for the next 2 weeks. So I haven't been on medication for a while. So working is like a little bit of a struggle. And then I'm glad this is a relationship episode because wedding planning is probably one of the hardest things I've had to do in my life as well. So that's where I'm at with it. But always optimistic, y'all. Always.
Man, I always appreciate how authentic and vulnerable you are with sharing, especially I mean even in the last episode. But the fact that, and I really hope that those that are watching this, I mean, Vince came out and said he had his therapy session, and that was some of the talk that we had in our last episode is trying to get many of our black men in our community to go to therapy. There's just so many things, there's so many benefits that can come from going to therapy. So I'm appreciative of you sharing your story, sharing how you feel today, Vince. And there are times where you know we may not get to the gym every day or may fall out of our routine. That's just part of life. But with life and as successful men on this panel, we get back right back up when we get the wheels moving again. And that's part of our journey. So thank you. Dr. E.
Man, Vince, I got to talk to you about ADHD. We'll have to circle back to that in a second because I say ADHD is my superpower. You know what I'm saying? I came out before the drugs. The ADHD wasn't. They didn't know what was gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? So I had to bring that back up. But physically I feel good, and it's so funny because working out is my therapy in terms of like just I'm a huge hands-on person. I'm a doer, and in this industry it's difficult to find kind of things that can keep your hands as busy as you need to, and like it's a lot of mornings I don't want to work out, and you said you hit a note saying that you don't want to go to the gym. I will work out every day. My intensity won't be the same, but I'll do something. Like either I'll just go for a walk, and like even this morning I woke up and I just went for a walk. I was like, I don't feel like doing my hit workout. Let me just go for a walk. So I just did, 3.5 mile walk, came back, what I'm saying, cut the grass. And I was just like, let me kind of do that. So mentally that gets me where I need to be. Spiritually, I feel like I'm always spiritually strong in the sense that I know what was required of me as a man. And so I know that spiritually, I have to maintain a certain amount of awareness and being cognizant of where I am. That doesn't mean I can't feel something, but spiritually, I got to be able to stay like grounded. Mentally I could be like, oh man, I need this. I'm not doing this. And again, as men, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, if I'm not doing something, I feel as though I'm not contributing. And so I'm like, if I'm not contributing, that's making me feel mentally. But spiritually, I'm like, wait a minute, I know I'm contributing in a good way. So physically, I'd say I'm at like a 9. I'm at a 9. My abs almost coming through. You know what I'm saying? They're still on back order. They almost coming through. Mentally, I feel like I'm probably like at a 6. Spiritually, I'm at an 8. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Since we're doing the ranking.
I like it, and there's a little piece in there. You said some the intensity may not be the same for workouts, and so you went on a walk, and that's another thing is just being able to adapt to how we feel or our environments. Our environments sometimes change. With you all being entertainers, things change all the time, and so you just have to adapt on the move. And so I'm appreciative that you mentioned that because so often we have our goals or what we're going to do the next day and it's set in stone. If we break that, it breaks us. And so just that adaptability is so key when it comes to mental health. So I appreciate you for mentioning that because it's so important. So again, mention uh we'll be circling back about men and responsibilities later on in the show, so that'll be a good conversation. But the first question that I have is obviously this episode is about mental health and relationships. So we're going to kick it off with the first question. And I know dating has definitely changed over the past 5 to 10 years, and really even over the past 2 years. So from all of y'all's experiences, how much do you think where you are or have been mentally has had an impact on the way that you've dated? And so we'll kick off the question with Grant.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely looking back at it, 5 years ago, what was I? College, yeah, something like that. So definitely a different Grant Jones that you see today. But no, honestly, like we were talking about, it's one of those things where understanding that your mental health is like the more important than like anything that you need to do. You need to focus on yourself first. Back then I kind of had commitment issues, and I can see now in hindsight probably because I had commitment issues because I wasn't committed to myself and my health and everything I am today. So once again, using that therapy as what we call last episode as that air mask. When you're on an airplane, you got to grab your mask first. Taking care of myself. If I would have had the knowledge and the praxis to put that into forth, I would have been in a better position with my relationships back in college. But I like to say you can't understand life until you look at it backwards. So no regrets, but I'm here and I'm hanging in there. So let's go.
That part on commitment issues and having the maturity to look back and and realize that um, that's part of growth. That's part of
Mhm.
learning who we are as people. But at what point did you know that you started turning the page or going down the correct road as far as getting the commitment that you needed from yourself in order to show up for other people?
Oh yeah, for sure. And like I said, you don't always see the results like right away. It takes time. It's a process. Obviously, when you're a skinny kid like me, you don't got a lot of muscles or you got a six pack because you're just skinny. It's just hanging in there. So physically, I started seeing it. Okay, I'm taking my care of myself. I'm going to the gym. Got big muscles. Going up there. People give me compliments. Mentally, I could just see a maturity with myself reading more. I hated reading growing up as a kid. My vocabulary started getting a little bit better as I got an adult. So and then spiritually I started questioning more things. I grew up in church, but then now I'm more spiritual than religious. So it's literally once you start asking yourself these questions and start challenging yourself, you can see that grow for itself. So
Love it. I love it. How about you, Vince? I know your experience is a little bit different than Grant's. You are engaged right now, so curious to know, how your experience has been, mentally as far as how it has evolved and how you show up for your partner.
Well, I have been in a relationship the last 5 years, so it is kind of different. You know what I'm saying? It's rough. Yes, it's an accomplishment. It is kind of different considering being in the single life. Like I don't even remember what that is anymore, man. honestly. But yeah, specifically the last 2 years, the world going through a pandemic and whatnot, lots and lots of mental stress. Different things that I would say that who teaches you about this stuff, man? Like where do you even learn? How do you experience these things? It's been rough, but I think uh as we've seen, the trends of people being locked in the house together, you're either together through the fire and all the other crazy stuff that took place, or a lot of people broke up. Lots of divorce rates and stuff have gone pretty crazy. I would say that mentally, both of us, myself and my fiance, we've hit low points throughout the last 2 years. But I find comfort in the fact that we've made it through. Like that's probably the most promising, exciting thing about all this. And we coming out engaged and about to be married. So it's exciting.
Congrats on the engagement. And I know you're not the only folks that have been kind of having the highs and lows with, I mean, everything was closed. We couldn't go anywhere. We were told to stay in our homes. And, as far as that, you really start seeing different sides of maybe people that you didn't otherwise, because you have work, you have other obligations that are going on. So has it in a way made the bond between you two a lot stronger, given that we were, in lockdown for 2 years?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The bond is weaker than ever. No, I'm joking. In a way, yes, it definitely has made the bond stronger. But it was, again, like I said, it was one of those like through the fire type situations. It's like I have never spent so much time with another person. Like that is the number one thing that is just like, yo, I don't have time to think, breathe, do most things by myself. And even planning the proposal was like this person is always right behind me every time I turn around. Like, what can I do? uh yeah, it was extremely rough, coming to terms with yourself also in such a dark time. Over the last 2 to 3 years, again, the world has seen so many changes, riots and pandemics and politics and all types of stuff. So there's so many new obstacles, I feel like, where myself as a human being, as a black man, like I was forced to be like, wait, which side of the fence am I on when it comes to this? And then having to deal with another person's opinion on that as well. And then like I could be mentally struggling with something like, oh, I don't even know how I feel about this. Or I don't know if I'm supposed to speak out about something particularly, or if I'm supposed to be quiet and sit down and let police brutality happen, or let women's rights be, taken away from them and stuff like that. What where's my place? Where do I speak up about this? And uh, I'm very blessed to say that my fiance is a very intelligent person. We have been able to have conversations about some of these things, but at the same time, she's going through her own things as well. Everybody's got life, their family, friends, going through situations as well. So you also recognize that there's things that you absolutely can't discuss with each other, because it would get you nowhere, or your views are that much different. So it has been again at the very end of it, where we're standing now, significantly stronger than where we started, absolutely. But yeah, there's lots of roadblocks and obstacles that you have to climb over to get to that point.
That's I mean, the nutshell or the definition of a relationship, going through all those roadblocks. And and I think, even my own experience before, as far as relationships, of thinking everything was peaches and cream and it always should be like that. And I just had this, unrealistic idea of a relationship in the past, where I was like, "Hey, we shouldn't have any problems." And when problems did come up, I was like, "Ooh, like let me go talk to this about with my therapist." And that's the important part. Again, when we talk about therapists, is you mentioned there's some things that, sometimes we just can't have those conversations. That's where, having men's groups or close friends or therapists to be able to converse with those individuals and feel like our space is welcomed and we're being acknowledged. So I'm appreciative of your perspective. Dr. E, how about you?
Man, Vince, there's so many things I want to hit. Like when you said you wouldn't want to talk about, I'm like, wait, something that's going on between both of y'all I want to talk about. And I was like, because me, I'm a talker. I'm like, we need to talk about it. I'm gonna be like, let's talk about it. You know, however, dating, to the question, dating has changed, drastically, but as it should. It changes with ages, it changes with time. And one thing that I feel like that there isn't enough of is mentorship, black mentorship in terms of like, hey bro, I've been here before. I got me and my wife been together for X amount of years, and you can sit down because therapy is cool. But if your therapist is not a black man, or if it's a woman, or if they're divorced, or if they're not married, how what kind of insight can you gain from them in that conversation, or if they were doing it at this time and having to be in the same place with somebody so long. It was easy for me because I was on I've been on a cruise ship, so for me, majority of all my relationships have been long distance. So if during the pandemic, that was the longest time I had ever been, right? So in the past 11 years. That was the longest time I was gone 10 months out the year. So I'd be on the ship 6 months on, 2 months off. But in terms of what I've seen, yes, dating has changed tremendously. Number one, like I said, back to mentorship, in terms of like questions you have to ask. But I'm a big talker. One thing that relationships have taught me is about myself. You learn things about yourself in relationships. You learn, did that affect you? How did you approach that? Should you have approached it this way? And then also one thing that has been so common is that men are saying, they want a woman to bring peace. If you know your woman, you know her upbringing and how she's been, ask yourself, has she been in a realm of peace to know how to bring peace? So if she doesn't, then you have to create the peace so that she can receive it and then give it to you. So I learned how to start. Let me just start creating a peaceful environment myself. Let me just take my tone down. I don't have to be like, yeah, you know what I'm saying. I ain't got to project my man. I ain't got to because it's already there. In the essence, I'm there. So let me reshape my environment in the sense that whenever you're with me, you feel that peace so that you can learn, so that you can give me that same peace back. It's kind of
Hmm.
that kind of reflecting in terms of like leadership. So I feel like that's one of the most common things because it was so prevalent during the pandemic. Everybody was like getting divorced, or I can't stand this person because they've been in the house with me, and it's like, wait a minute, you can still be together and do things separately. And I feel like sometimes you get that overwhelming thing where it's like we got to do everything together. That's not how relationships work. You become one, but you're still separate entities that make each other better. So you can have things to talk about. So you can have questions. I feel like a healthy discussion is valuable to a good relationship because it lets you know how people are thinking, where their mind is at, how it lets you know how to proceed with other conversations. And I feel like I always feel like it's important. It is also important though to remember when you're having those conversations, be like, hey, it's coming to a point now where I feel like we should probably, table this for another time. If you can't say that, then you're not at the level yet that you need to be at to be like, we can keep talking. Like now, let's just say you see her, if you see her head going like this, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, yeah, let's just not do it. So that's what I feel like. But yeah, I feel like it has changed a lot. I feel like it's changed a lot in providership in terms of men and like and what they can provide, what providing means, what women want, the power struggle that's been such a big topic about power and submission in relationships, and then what women ultimately say they want versus what they're actually doing, to get that or to
Hmm.
attain. Yeah.
All right, folks, that's the end of the podcast. Dr. E just dropped the mic. Hey, we'll see
Oh
y'all next week.
no, no. I'm just sharing. I'm just sharing,
Hey,
brother.
no, there
Y'all
was
come
there
back
was
now, you hear?
there was so much. Ooh, man, where do we even unpack that? I mean, you just there was so much insight and information in what you just said. But the point you made with and this is something, and Vincent and Grant, you can chime in as well. But what I've also noticed is these relationships. So the past 2 years, like you said, Dr. E, we've been inside. We people have just literally done everything every single day together. And in my opinion, I don't think that's healthy because I think that two people still need to have their own lives. And if you are under your partner's arm 24/7, it it's going to eventually there's going to be some type of drama, chaos, whatever you want to call it, because again, we we need our own space. We need our own space to unwind. It's like going to work. If your boss was around you 24/7, you're like, "Man, you know what? This boss has one more time to say something." It's just like it creates that tension. So, Grant, so curious to
Get out my
know,
cubicle, man. Get out my cubicle. You got one more time. You got one.
right? But the other thing too with what you said, Dr. E, is just kind of your experience with the long distance. I'm curious to know, how did that work out for you when, like, communication, seeing each other, that explain, or can you dive into that a little bit more just to give our viewers a little bit more context?
Well, it's so funny, listen to Kevin Samuels. He would always say that long distance ain't real, right? It's not a real relationship. For me, I felt like I learned so much more about the person mentally normally because all we had was the phone. So
Mm,
all we had to do was the phone. So like to me, like people, there's a time where if you're in a relationship, somebody hang up on you. I used to be like, nah, don't hang up on me. But like when you're still a long distance relationship, if all I have is the phone and we got this, cell service and cell service back, you can't hang up on me. Like you can't hang up on me and don't answer the phone because that's like I don't get. It's not like we're in the same house. It's not like I'm down the street. It's not like I'm like 30 minutes away, 20 minutes away. I took that as like real offensive, and I don't think that that was something that was visible to her at the time. But like, if you hang up on me, or if we're in a conversation and you choose not to answer the phone, and I can't talk to you, that's like it made me feel like abandoned. I was like, I don't like that. I didn't like
mm,
that. That was one thing that I had to grasp. But you get to talk so much more, and um, because there are other things that you get to share. You have to be more creative. You're not in the same space, so it makes it more exciting to look forward to seeing each other. And so things like that, and I feel like it does add a sense of spice and romance in terms of like pen pals kind of situation. Sounds bad, but ladies are very much they want things written, they want handwritten letters, they want flowers and things like that. Sometimes when you're in the same space, you don't take the time to send the flowers because you're like, oh, I'm there, I can just show up. What I'm saying, oh, she still want to send the flowers, or you may not send a picture, or she may not send a picture because y'all will see each other later. But flirting with your lady and still being aggressing her and pursuing her is something that's very important in that space. And sometimes we lose that when we in the same space.
mhm,
We don't approach it the same way. So for me, it showed me that that's something that has to be consistent. Even when I'm on land, like I have to make sure that I'm still providing that kind of space where I'm still like flirting, coming 100%, or at least 80%, or to remind myself, or to remind myself that that I need to if I hadn't done it today. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things. So
mhm. No, that's definitely an interesting perspective because I think a lot of people, with this new age of work from home, people are relocating and partners are moving, and I think it's important that, having those conversations, figuring out different ways to flirt with your partner is so key because it's one of those things. If your partner doesn't feel wanted, or if your partner doesn't feel valued, and you're in a distance long as, even if you're in person, it's like, hey, like, what are we doing here? I don't feel the spark, I don't feel the attraction, because either one person has stopped doing what they were doing at the beginning. And I read a quote the other day, or last week, and it said, if you do things at the beginning of the relationship that you know you're not going to stick to 6 months from now, don't do it. Example.
if you
You lying. That's what if you do that, you just lying. Like I can't say
yeah,
like I'm not a big makeup person. I don't like I don't I'm like listen, I don't like all that. Like you got a pretty face, and that's something I don't mean to cut, but that's like as soon as you said, I was like, you if you doing that, you just lying. You just falsifying documents right now. You know,
100%.
you lying on the resume. I can't hire
Right, exactly, exactly. So still sticking on that same topic, as black men, do you think there is added pressure on us, regardless of preference of race that we date, to always be on 24/7? So what I mean by that is, do you feel that men always have to be emotionally stable, strong, the supporter, the backbone of relationships? Do you think that is a pressure from society or pressure from our own community, Dr. E?
I feel like that's the pressure from us as men.
Mm,
First of all, a man is the backbone of every relationship. People are like, there's this misconception that black women are the backbone of our society. That's not true. Black women are give us the strength, and a black woman having to be strong and choosing to be strong is two different things. Like my mom was a single mom growing up, so she had to be strong because she was a single mom. But would she have preferred to still have my dad, as her husband, or somebody else as her husband, so she could take half of that load? Of course. There's a difference, and so I feel like the the stigma that black women are the backbone. No, a black man can give you so much more strength to be yourself, to empower you in such a way that you can speak how you want to speak because whatever happens, my man got it. And not in a negative, toxic way, like you can go out in the street, pick a fight, my man gonna come out here, but like just saying like I feel like I can be strong because I don't have to worry about so many things. And therefore I can rest in my femininity. I can be myself. So as a man, I feel like we tell ourselves we have to be strong. We have to be supportive. We got to be the backbone. And as black men, it's even what I'm saying, we always got to overcome the stereotype. We got to overcome what everybody's thinking. With any other race, they don't even know until they know. And this is funny. I've never said this publicly, but I fell in love with a young lady. She was from Hungary, and that was my first time falling in love with somebody who was was white, and it gave me so much more appreciation for the black woman, in the sense that I loved her, but I couldn't. When I realized I had to explain to her every time what it meant to
mm,
go out, or if we had kids, how I'd have to tell them, listen, they can't just be driving around. Right, those kind of conversations she didn't understand. Or like the first time she met my mom, and I was like, listen, my mom is not going, she's not gonna come, and she already don't want to talk to you because she's from Alabama. She was like, what do you mean? I was like, my mom grew up with coloreds only water fountains. She was like, what's that? And I had to tell her what that was. And then she was
mhm,
like, but that's not me. I was like, I know that's not you. I'm preparing you for this, right? And so having to tell her that, having to go through that, and it's like, it gave me so much more of appreciation for what a black woman is in my life. And it didn't like the love was real that I had for her, but it gave me a greater understanding, greater love for black women. And I know that I could never not marry a black woman. You know what I'm saying? Like
mhm,
because of that. But in like, back to the question though, societal pressure from our own culture and community, I feel like um, there is a lot of black women who may be spouseless, so they try to put that pressure on us. But again, we as men, I feel like in order to show up as the man we want to be, have to be in a place mentally to be there for her the right way. And if we don't feel like we can't, because again, men, we go by territory and like what we've acquired and what we've done in our accomplishments and things like that. So if we're going into a relationship, we want to make sure we have certain things in place so we don't slip up. We can't slip up, you know. But then the other part is being that strong is so important to find the right woman that can allow you to be like, I got, I'm feeling this. And she like feeling what, and you can talk to her about it and
mm,
actually
yeah,
come out. And it's not so much like, oh, saying my man ain't he ain't strong. It's the difference when she knows that you're strong. She knows that you're carrying the weight, and she sees that. Listen, talk to me. Come talk to me. And it's a different kind of lean. It doesn't remove your masculinity. It doesn't diminish her role or diminish your role or her view of you. It's just that you've created that space where she can actually talk to you. And I feel like in order to do that, it has to start with us because And speaking of, I meant to say this earlier, but like for like when you in the same place, routine, I notice is like a number one thing for me. So like if I get up in the morning, I got to work out. How many times you lay in the bed, or if you was with her or you want to sleep and she wants you to stay in the bed, it's like listen, go work out, come back, she'll be there. She'll
Mhm.
appreciate it more. She'll appreciate you more. And because you're on a schedule, you're on a routine, you're still doing your thing, you're still keeping yourself fit, she gonna like you even more. Your endorphins gonna be up when you come back. Your testosterone gonna be up when you come back. You know what I'm saying? So like
Yeah.
sticking to your routines, I feel like helps in the sense where if you're in the house with somebody with your girl all the time, y'all don't have space. If you stick to your own routines to do those things that doesn't include her, I still feel like it gives you that time to be like, oh, he left and came back.
Yeah. No, I feel you on that. Going back to how you mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you said that the black woman gives, or the black man gives, we give our woman the strength to just be in her space, to be herself. And kind of I want to take this over to Vince. And you've got being in your relationship for so long and in being engaged, how have you seen that dynamic play out in your own relationship?
The dynamic of being the strength for my black queen,
Yes, sir.
the backbone, if you will. It's funny. It's funny. It's funny because I definitely agree with everything Dr. E was saying over there. I really, really enjoyed that. I feel like we're in a really weird place though, also where it's a good weird place that it's absolutely acceptable for men, specifically black men, to be or appear weak is a bad word, but to be woke, to be I don't even want to say soft, like gentle, like open and sharing their feelings. Like it's a wonderful place where that's like the cool thing to do now, or it's becoming cool at least. Uh, and on the flip side, it's also funny that women's empowerment has taken a very interesting turn. I love Meg the Stallion and Cardi and City Girls and all that. But some of these women out here that are trying to remain FNF, I hope some people know what that means. I'm not going to go into detail, but I just think it's also great. It's weird, but it's great. It's empowering in its own different way. But to jump back into the question, yes, I do absolutely feel like I feel the pressure of having to be on in my relationship, in society in general. And I feel like I've tried my best to make sure that I'm doing that in my relationship. Again, obviously, and we've shared in past conversations also about how hard it was during COVID, not knowing where your next check, your next meal was going to come from, even, and having to maybe take a step back and let her be the provider for a second, just because she has a steady job and I'm gig based, like
Hmm.
most of us here. So it was a struggle. It was something that I felt okay with because I knew that she had worked so hard in her position to be where she's at. But it's a weakness. I did not want to be the guy like, oh yeah, my sugar mama, while while I'm saying I ain't bringing up money, and I would love for her to be my sugar mama nowadays, But yeah, I do think that I don't know. She's gonna walk in any second now, but I'm sure she felt that I could have been providing even more. And that was something that was hard for me because it's like, I don't know where I'm gonna pull this out from, but it's gonna be it's gonna be something that is that's gonna turn into some black magic, if you will. I don't know where it's gonna come from. I'm literally trying my best to make sure that things go well. I think something that Dr. E touched on was along the lines of being her piece. Like it doesn't have to necessarily be financial support and stuff like that. But I think if there's anything I got going for me, it's my personality and trying to stay positive and optimistic about things. And that's something that I absolutely would like to share with her even more in our life, continuing from here. And she's giving me credit. She's giving me some props for helping her learn how to meditate or be a little bit easier about certain things. So I'm happy I got that. But I still, again, I do feel the pressure to be the provider, the backbone. What I'm saying, my man got 3 jobs, like that guy. But but I also want that. I want to be stronger for her. So
And there can be when I hear you and Dr. E speak about it, uh, my thought is I almost wonder if it is just like innately in us men to just want to take, you said it, just want to take those responsibilities on. And I've been in relationships too to where like I want to help. I want to do everything that I can to make sure that my partner is okay. Is she mentally in a great place? Is there something that I can take off of her hands to make things easier? But here's the key. In my opinion, we can do that, but it also has to go both ways. In order to have those healthy relationships, it cannot be one sided to where we are providing everything and then our partner isn't bringing us anything. And Dr. E said it, bringing peace, um, that that is the one of the more important parts is okay, if we're making our partner's life easier, we should be getting that same energy back. If not, then we have to have those conversations of, hey, what conversation do we need to make sure that we're on the same page of where things are going? And sometimes people don't communicate those things. And I think in our last episode we talked about making sure, I think we talked about it, but making sure we're vetting our partner for the things that we sometimes let me rephrase that, making sure we're vetting our partner for some of the things that we need and we're looking for in a partner versus just looking at a partner just for what she physically brings to the table. Because I think a lot of times us men being visual will say, "Ooh, wow, well, she looks good. She looks good. Well, I want to date her." And then you start hearing the conversation, hearing her mindset. Like Dr. E said, routines, where are the routines at? And it's like, ooh, I don't know if this is really going to work out. But a lot of times when we are not healed ourselves, we accept those type of behaviors. And then it just is it's a chaotic situation to where we're unhappy in those relationships. Um, but Grant, as far as, you know, us black men, in being in relationships, what are your thoughts as far as, do you feel the pressure of always having it together, always being on 24/7, or is it something that you put on yourself to provide those things?
Yeah, 100%. First off, I want to say Dr. E and Kendrick and Vince, you guys are all hitting major points. Probably still what I was gonna say. But no, you guys know me, man. Like, I think Escape said it best. What I need from you is understanding. And one of the best ways the black man gets understanding, knows somebody, is the black woman. Like, think about it this way: anything the black man's going through, the black woman probably has gone through it even worse. Because think about it this way: the black man is like considered on top in terms of our society living in America versus the black woman. Everything they have to go through, we've already been through, but then they have to endure being a woman now, and that brings the feminine. So back to Dr. E's point, there is a little bit of pressure to have that peace at the home, but it has to start with you and making sure that you're right and you're at peace with yourself to have a good environment for the black woman to uplift you. I've been in multiple relationships. I've been like Jason Derulo, been around the world, and I don't speak the language, man. So I had white, Puerto Rican, all that stuff. To piggyback on Dr. E, it is nice to have somebody that understands you, where you don't always have to explain yourself. You don't have to be the person like, oh, this is why we put salt on the chicken. You know, we don't we put a little bit more. We put paprika. We put onion powder. We put more than just salt and pepper. You know, those things. I'm joking, but you guys get the picture. Like, there's things where what's understood don't got to be explained. And so when you have somebody that knows where you're coming from, it is nice because it just saves you a lot of time and energy and creating that space. One thing y'all know me, I love looking back at Black history, back in Kemet, back in Egypt. If you look at the pyramid system, just look at a triangle, for example. I read a lot of books. The masculine energy, that's coming from the guy. He's bringing the action. If you look at the feminine energy, they're bringing the knowledge, and then that bottom of the base of the pyramid is the love. So you can take the masculine energy and you take the feminine energy and you put on the bottom, it creates that strong foundation with that love. What in America, what we're going through right now is the roles are being switched. So they want the guys to be more feminine and they want the ladies to be more masculine. Back to the Cardi B, back to the INDPENT, all that stuff. They want everyone to break up the Black family. So, with that being said, it's just one of those things where I think there is a lot of pressure because of our history and our roots, where we were Black kings and queens. We had Cleopatra, we had Isis, all this stuff. And they say that Black women were running the world. But back to Dr. E's point, I believe we put them in a position to be in that power and have that strength. So, it's hard because with interracial dating, like I said, I have my fair share. It's one of those things where I feel like it is designed in America to break up the Black family. So, like you guys were talking about, there is a small error to mess up. And when Kanye West said it best sometimes, where he's like, "You get off and then you leave her ass for a white girl," they're pushing the agenda to break it up.
Mm,
But I feel like as a unit, when we're all united, we can start like making some real change and shifting the paradigm. So
powerful, powerful, Grant. There's a lot
tap in.
that tap in.
19
The,
keys, tap in.
yeah, there's that's one of the other things when we look at uh, our community and relationships, and Dr. E mentioned it earlier as far as examples, like where are we going to see positive examples of relationships in our community? And it seems like it's getting lesser and lesser as far as what we see. And when it boils down to it, our young Black men don't have examples to look for, because the dynamics of the relationships in our community, it's like you said, it's we're split to where there are a lot of single parents raising young Black men, and then we're not giving, we get the things that the woman provides when raising children, but we don't also have the side of a man as far as the things that a man brings to raising children. And not, there's no disrespect to that, because there are many Black women out there that have done great jobs raising young Black men. But what I'm saying, as far as from as a whole in our community, where are we going to see these positive relationships? And anybody can chime in on this. Where do we go? Where do our young Black men go to see positive relationships?
So when I grew up, my dad left divorced my mom when I was one. So I saw him every other weekend, and she never remarried. And when I went to college, and I didn't realize this now in hindsight, I stayed with my grandparents, my granddad and my Johnny May, who just passed. But I stayed with my grandparents when I was in college, and that was my first time ever being in a two-parent household, and it was important for me to see it. And to this day I credit that that was more important than me actually going to college. Being
Mm,
able to see that, being able to see how my granddad talked to my Johnny May, how she talked to him, how the dynamic, how to hear them argue, to hear them, love, kiss, talk about each other, have fun, to see them both interact with me. And I didn't realize how important it was because I had never seen it. I
mhm,
never, that was just that was just it. And it was just that was probably one of the best experiences that I think that still to this day it's like I'm glad I was able to see that because I didn't get to grow up with that. So and I got to see how they still talk to my aunts and my uncle, how they would still nurture them and speak to them as parents and how they took on certain roles. Both of them played soccer, but they also had other things that they were into, and how they said, "Oh, well, I took her to this one, I took her down to this place," and to hear how they divided that time up, but how they both gave focus to these things, and it was just like, oh, that's I would have never thought about that kind of parenting unless
Hmm.
I had been there. So
Do you think that experience will change, as far as any type of any type of new relationship? And I'm not meaning just like romantic relationship. Do you think it has also played an impact with just like friendships and business relationships for you?
yeah, for me, um, yes, it definitely does. It like there is a complete difference between growing up in a single parent household and a two parent household. And then there's a difference between a healthy two parent household as well.
Hmm.
So it's there's a big difference in that. So and once you can identify it, it definitely shifts and changes things. Like for me, when you realize, since we're talking about mental health, when you realize that it's a lot more that black men are dealing with that we're not saying, but it's showing. We're showing our cards, but we're not saying it. And when you can identify those certain things, when you see another black man or you hear him talk or you talk to him, you're like, oh, okay, you're dealing with that. And then they confirm it, then you can kind of start to pick up these things and see how important it was. And you're like, oh, I need to share this. Oh, we need to talk about this. So
Hmm.
yeah, it definitely has.
So going back to just kind of shifting gears, still staying on the relationship, or tap in a little bit more to the mental health aspect of things. Going to events, just what has your experience been like when dating somebody who has gone through or dealt with any type of mental health struggle?
Ooh, mental health, man. Mental health. This is very important that our community needs therapy. I don't even really want to comment on this, but just to try to piggyback off of some of the last question, because I think it is important for people to have examples. Uh, I don't know if mental health history is a thing, or genealogy or something like that is a term, but being aware of your surroundings and the people around you and like what they've gone through, I feel like it's very important. I feel like it is almost a key to survival, if you will. I was blessed to grow up in a two parent household that for the most of my life I would like to say was healthy. There were times where it wasn't as healthy, and my parents eventually split and divorced around the time that I was 20. My younger brother was in high school still, so it was a little bit more, you know, disruptive for him, I would say, than it was for me. Um, my parents, it's my father's brother was divorced when he was younger. His parents were not together, but my father's grandparents, my great grandparents, who I was also blessed enough to meet and be around, they both passed in their mid to late 90s. Have been together for 76 years and were honored by
Oh, wow.
the New York Archdiocese for the longest marriage in New York City or something like that. And that was my father's goal. Because he grew up with his grandfather in love at to as far as he knew, and that was his goal. And that's my brother's goal. That's my goal. And it is a very, very hard goal to achieve, especially when you don't fully understand. I don't know how long my great grandparents were together before they decided to get married, but when you're meeting someone, when you're bringing again your whole entire life into someone else's whole entire life and everything that happened before it, that's where things begin to get a little messy. When you're like, oh, we could just do this. We could just,
Mhm.
it's gonna work. It's gonna be some work that has to go into it to get it to work. Me specifically in dealing with the mental health of the person that I'm dating, it is very hard. You have to be very careful about things a lot of times. Um, I don't even know where to go. I don't even
And
know
I
where to
and
go.
I don't want you to go
Yeah,
into things that are, personal and,
yeah,
to
yeah.
you, but just like generally speaking, how have you shown up for the other person? Meaning, are there certain things you do, such as just to give other our viewers examples if we have young black men watching, if they're dating somebody that has gone through some type of mental health or
Mhm.
situation. Are you, hey, I'll take care of dinner, hey, I'll take care of getting groceries, hey, I'll do X, Y, and Z? Are there
Yeah,
things like that that you do?
absolutely teamwork. Uh, I would say one last recommendation: Black Love, the show. Amazing, amazing show. Great example of Black Love. Uh, when it comes to, as my fiance is walking in the door, when it comes to your strengths, your weaknesses, the love languages, I would definitely
Mm,
look into understanding as much about the love languages and your partner's love language as you possibly can, and even learning what your own is and how they match up. So for examples, I can't remember what her love language is off the top of my head right now. It's probably gifts, acts of service, all doing things and stuff. I just don't enjoy doing things most of the time. Mine is usually probably like most men, things like physical touch. I need to be touched. I need to feel the love, you know, and words of affirmation, because that's just I've always been like that. I need you to tell me I'm doing good, right?
mhm,
I'm doing okay. So I think a lot of times we make the mistake of loving the person in the language that we receive it in.
mm.
So it's like, baby, you doing amazing, babe. You look good today. You're great. I love you so much. You're amazing. She like, did you wash the dishes though, bro? Like what? Like why? Why are we like? That's beautiful that you feel that way about me, but I need some acts of service. So it's definitely a learning curve that goes into making sure that you're loving the right way. I would say, fellas, all fellas around the world, women are gonna enjoy this. I've told so many of my boys, yo, just rub her back every once in a while, like just to see what happens. And the woman will, oh my good, yes, yes. Why do you not do that? Why? Why? Like for some reason, I have magical fingers. I don't know where they came from, but I'm grateful that my baby's having a hard day, which I'm sure she did. Just sneak up on her, hit the little lower back just for like a minute. It don't even have to be a full thing, but then that gets her like addicted to the, oh, I need my feet rubbed for this long or stuff like that. But I know that she appreciates the little bit of comforting that I bring to her. Again, when it comes to peace and healing and making sure that her mind is calm. I didn't cook dinner today, so I'm probably gonna hear it after this podcast. But I feel like aside from that, like as long as I'm being aware of your mental health, and I'm trying my best to maintain mine as well, because that's the hardest part for me right now is learning more about myself and having to kindly explain to her, hey, look, I just learned a new barrier, a new obstacle that I've been jumping over my entire life, but I didn't think that it was an obstacle before. I just thought it was how life was. But
Mhm.
I recognize that this is my brain is wired a specific type of way. So I need you to learn about this with me so we can both work our way through it. And that on the flip side, for me, in terms of me, the one having to show my mental health to her, it's been a little challenging as well. But as long as you're willing to work through it, that's the best possible way to go about it.
Mhm. The small things, that those are the things that matter, and we mentioned it earlier. If you're doing things, on date 1, date 2, date 3 that you don't plan on doing on date 75, don't do it. Because it's like Dr. E said, you're lying. You're lying on your resume. And that's a no-no. But to to give our viewers some more context with mental health, I had an experience a couple weeks ago, and this young lady came up to me and she's like, "Hey, I got a question for you." I'm like, "Okay, when you a question like that could be any type of question." And she's like, "How do I help somebody that is having their own mental health battles and I'm going through mine?" And I gave her a very blunt answer and I said, "You can't." And she looked at me like I was an alien. And I was like, "Well, maybe I should give her a little bit more context." So I told her, you cannot pour water in somebody else's glass if your glass is not full. And she still looked at me and I repeated the same thing. And it's very important to our viewers to understand that if you have a partner that is going through their own mental health struggle, and you're going through a mental health struggle as well, it's probably wise to, and Vince has mentioned it a few times, therapy. And for some people, maybe therapy is not the route for you. Maybe, and Grant's mentioned, hey, spirituality. Get in touch with who you are. Learn about who you are, so then you can completely and authentically show up for your partner versus two broke people trying to fix each other. It really. In my experience and what I've seen, and I was broke at one point, it doesn't work because you try to start reaching for things that you don't even know. And my saying I've often said is, how do you know how to heal somebody and you've never seen what healing looks like? And people are like, ooh, okay. And that's the mental health is it, like I said before, in our community, many of us men go unseen and unheard, and that's where it becomes important vetting our partner, making sure that our partner is well, and then also making sure that we are well, because there's going to be a time in those relationships, whether it be month 1 or month 17, where there's maybe an argument, a disagreement, something tragic may happen in the family. Two people need to be well themselves in order to bring themselves fully to provide that other person with what he or she needs. And I think that's an important part. And so, as we talk about partners, and this one's for Grant. And Grant, do you think that women understand all of the things men have to go through?
Um, I always say it's a weird paradox with women. Sometimes, and girls, do not get mad at me. I say women are the smartest and dumbest at the same time. And I say that because it seems like they know a lot, but sometimes they know too much for their own well-being. You know what I mean? So sometimes they understand you're going through something, but then they're just like, "Well, I'll just do that," and it's just like it's not that easy. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And we go back to understanding the pressure that men have to go through on a constant basis, especially being a black man. Um, I like the saying that Vince was saying too about environment. So back to your question, your original question, I was talking about more so like with healing. My hashtag is heal before you date, right? So environment's very key. So you're taking one person's environment and you're mixing it kind of with your environment, like Dachi with your Hungarian, like little honey tenderoni you were working with. So for me and my example, one thing that my dad used to do, I used to emulate people I want to be like. So my dad would always take my mom out every Tuesday, right? Be some type of date night. So I try to do that in my relationship now. And in past relationships, I've had girls whose parents were divorced, so she didn't have that. So, for instance, for example, this is not like real, but I'm just making an example. Let's say I was dating someone that's parents were divorced, right? And the mom never did anything for the dad, just kind of hang around. They might actually do the opposite. They don't want to emulate that. Now they want to be clingy and want to cook for me. They want to clean for me. They want to do all this stuff. And it's literally like if you're not healing from that, you don't know how to love. Like you just said, Kendrick, how can you heal somebody when you don't even know the first thing about healing yourself? So it goes back to understanding where your space and becoming very self-aware about what you want to do and how you want to bring that relationship about.
mm.
So yeah, I would say that girls, I mean, they kind of understand, but until they fully heal, they can't completely understand. We're dealing with two different types of energy, masculine and feminine. Feminine. I can't even speak it. Feminine. Say that 3 times. See what happens. But yeah, back to your point, man. I'm just saying, like, everyone has a different perspective on life. I don't think we will ever fully understand girls, and girls will never fully understand the man. So,
Dr. E, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think women understand all of the things that men go through?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. 210%. No. Like, even in the sense where we're like, let's just take getting a flat tire. You get a flat tire on the side of the road, right? The girl like, um, okay, I get a flat tire. Somebody come change it. What? What? Like somebody will come change. Who is somebody? It's gonna be a man. It's most likely gonna be a man. Or you're gonna Uber somewhere and then another man's gonna come pick it up. If we get a flat tire, bro, you ain't changed it yet. You ain't got AAA. you ain't call nobody. Why you ain't call such and such? Like all these things that we should have done instantly. But it's like if it goes the other way, it's like, oh, somebody do it, or it'd be like, huh, what, huh, what? You know, it's a whole other thing, man. And then speaking of what Vince made a hint on, he was talking about role reversal in the sense where, you know, men are tapping in. I feel like being a true leader is balance. You know, being able to have your own feminine energy within your woman at the same time. That doesn't make you less masculine. It makes you more of a man because you can tap into those things. You know, I think it was Dr. Peterson. He said that, you know, I saw you now. I think he said, I think the quote is, you know, it's much more of a safer world to live in when you know that there's a dangerous man who chooses to be kind
Mm,
versus a man who is weak. You know, because you know you got to be careful when you're making steps around. You got to be careful because he's still a dangerous dude. He's choosing not to be that way. And you know, in the sense where we say that it's shifted in the sense that women are getting the opportunities that we weren't afforded. You got to think about it. Black women were never looked upon as threats in the workplace. So they're going to have more opportunities that come to them because a black man did not want to give, I mean, a white man did not want to give that power to a black man. So they're going to be able to be in positions and give them jobs and careers that allot them this amount of money. And that doesn't make them want to do it. I mean, I know plenty of women that make over $150,000 who don't like it. They stressed out all the time. They don't want to do it. They like, listen, I got the money, but I'm stressed, and they not meant to. You know, they ain't meant to carry that stress. You know, shoulders meant to carry stress, hips ain't. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's a difference. That's why
mm,
we got broad shoulders like that, right? So when I was listening to this, I can't remember her name, and maybe but she's a black therapist, and she said that there should be a way that the black woman should circumvent that in the sense where she should find a way to put that stress back on the man because she said all the women that she's had in therapy, like they get in these jobs and they get this money and that's fine, but they're not happy. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with work stress a lot of times, and it's true. And it does. And this is not. And you know, you have to make it very clear. I'm not knocking the accomplishment of what a black woman has done. I'm not knocking the fact that she's doing. I'm not knocking her intellect. I'm just saying, from the women that I've experienced that make that money, they may enjoy the money. They may enjoy a piece of the lifestyle, but 80% of it, they like, I don't want to do it. You
mm,
know, and so yeah, I feel like those kind of things where we don't have the choice. There's no choice. We have to do it because we have to. That's what we're here to do. We have to do it in every sense of the word. And even when Vince, you said something, you were talking about, you know, where you had to step back and let her be the provider. There's a difference in the things that we provide as men. Like, you know, there's a whole another thing. Money doesn't change the way she acts around you. Your persona changes the way she acts around.
mm,
And like, you know, and I mean, I say that, I mean, I made good money. So you know, but that was always the thing because we are in gigs, in the gigging industry, you know, the money can come at a time and it'll be great. But every other time it's not consistent and we're like, when's the next thing coming? And we start thinking about our worth. It's like, oh man,
mm,
I can't do it. Then we back on stage and we in there. You know what I'm saying? And it's a different kind of thing because and then like Vince said, you got to turn that thing on where you got to make her feel good. You know, that's what you do. That's what we do. We make people feel good. That's a good thing. We could turn that on. And you know, he was saying about rubbing feet and rubbing backs and stuff like that. I feel like that's good because then that gives her something to look forward to. So that means if she likes it, then you don't have to bring it up. She'll be like, babe, rub my feet. Can you do it like this time? So every time she says it, she's asking you about something that you did. So that means it's registered in your mind. Again, it's a verbal thing like, hey, that time you did this made me feel real good. Can you
mm,
do it now? And you don't have to worry about am I doing the right thing because she's already asked for it. And she asked for it because she's like, you're like, oh, let me hold off on. It. Oh, you want that? Maybe a little bit later. You know what I'm saying? You can start flirting with, you know, those kind of things. So So yeah, I don't think there will ever be a time that the black woman will understand what it really consists of to be a man. And now that doesn't that again, yeah, you have to be very clear because somebody come back and say, what about um what about the the getting discriminated against or working in a workplace being black? Those are two different things. Our discrimination as a community is where it is solely. But who being a man and being a woman are two different things. Because I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I don't know what it's like to have a cycle. I don't know what it's like to give birth. I don't know what it's like to have you know breast cramp. None of that. I don't know what it's like to go outside and have to worry about this dude looking at me like that. I don't know how to carry those things. I'm not going to act and say that I do, but I don't think that there's a way that they can understand it. Just like we
Mhm.
can't understand.
And I think, that great perspectives for sure, because you know I think, in my opinion, it's difficult. Like you said, we will never understand we'll never understand some of the things that women go through. For example, if there's a woman pumping her gas and a guy drives by and whistles, we'll never understand those things, because generally speaking, us men don't have those type of experience where women are driving by us whistling. Now, there are those times, that 1% where you do have women that are very bold and very vocal, and they do whistle or have these demonstrations of showing attraction that are very, very obvious. The On the flip side of that, for us men, we have to go through being the providers, just having the expectations of being the providers. In many cases, we do deal with racism on from a business or job standpoint. As far as the we a lot of the things that we go through is very performative. So it's like, okay, if I get a job, I'm expected to make this much money, even though there may not be that expectation in a relationship. In the back of our minds, we have, okay, we need to make X amount of money to take care of this. So, I mean, that's just a small sample of things that we go through, that I think it's okay for us to not fully understand one another. But the thing that's important is having those conversations in a relationship to try to bring both people together to understand, because a lot of times we have just you know one person's extreme right, one person's extreme left, and we don't know what's going on. And then it's like, well, why didn't you do that? Well, you should have read my mind, or you should have. And obviously we've all had those experiences where it's not healthy for relationships to have those expectations of, we think somebody is going to do something, but we never communicated about it.
And
Yeah.
that's like a big thing that, about communication. Is like learning how somebody wants to be communicated, and then
100%.
being able to tell them like by experience. For instance, like, well, you never mentioned that, and then you have to remove the feeling of her feeling like you abandoned her or you didn't do it because you didn't want to make her feel happy and all that stuff. Like, listen, you never communicated this to me, and being able to say that without any ego. That's the main point.
Mm,
You got to
hmm.
say that as calm as possible. Like, you didn't communicate this to me, so I wasn't able to provide you with. It's good to know now that that's what you wanted, but you cannot fault me for something that it wasn't shared. And then you got to be able to illustrate, because when you can illustrate what it is that she wasn't able to present to you, then that's a teachable moment for both of y'all. One, you can teach like, hey, this is something that you like, that you really want, that you could have been getting, but you weren't able to find words for it. Why is that?
Hmm.
And that comes back to mental health. Is there something you dealt with in the past and you just now sharing it now, and then you realize, oh, well, yeah, it was because of X, Y, and Z. And then you get to delve into it. And then that's what really gets the conversations going. That's when you really start to figure out, oh, okay. Okay, so that's why you're expecting this. That's why you need this kind of, appreciation. That's why you need this kind of love. Like, so that community, but that thing right there about how things need to be communicated. is like top tier for me.
One 100%. And that's, I mean, you almost, a lot of people say, hey, when I'm getting in a relationship, it's a business deal. And depends on how you want to look at it. But in a business deal, you communicate what's in that contract. And what's in that contract, okay, we've got X, Y, and Z. This is how much money we're getting for this. And, we're bound to that contract. And a lot of times we get into relationships and it's just kind of like, oh, we'll just go with the flow. And then when shit hits the fan, it's like, well, you weren't supposed to do that. Well, we never had like an agreement. We never had we never communicated on what our expectations or what our needs were for that relationship. Um, so for switching gears, I know we got a little bit of time, and as Grant says, I want to be respectful of your time. um, this is a question, and I know I have it written down differently, but over the past 2 or 3 months, I've had an opportunity to interview so many women about this and about men and men's mental health. And one of the questions that continually comes up is, why don't men fully open up or communicate how we feel? And so, even this morning, I was having a conversation with a couple women, and they're like, yeah, why don't men, we want to know, why don't men talk? Why don't men share what they're feeling? So I'm going to take it over to Grant. And before you respond, Grant, it's one of those things to where I've experienced it before I was healed, to where I was very closed off. I was very timid on what I wanted to tell the women that I dated. And I don't know if it was just from society or just what I thought I should be doing. But yeah, that's something that often comes up, is why don't men share how we feel and the things we go through? So Grant, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh man, it's it might be a prideful thing, it might be an ego thing. I think once again, it just goes back to society that we live in. As a black man, you're supposed to have everything together, you know. We come from kings and queens, you know, we gotta get the bag. Like so at any point, and in the black community, we like to dog each other out a little bit, like, yo, bro, your hair looking a little rough. What's that line in that, bro? Like, come on now. Like you literally, and it's unfortunate because you don't see like as much as the white community or any other communities, but we really call each other out. But I think it's a weird type of thing, like a tradition that we learned, and I think it might have came from slavery where I had to be the top nigga, or you're like, I'm gonna get the last piece of chicken. Oh, I'm gonna be master. So we have to dog each other out so much. So it's hard for us to, and that's why I'm glad we have these podcasts, Kendra, because it's four black men coming together, talking about how we feel and opening up. A lot of times I feel like with girls, it's just like they are so used to talking to other girls and talking about it. Guys, I feel like we're more about, okay, I don't have time to talk about my feelings. I got to go to the gym. I got to look good. So literally, if anyone's listening out there and they're in a relationship or they're about to get in a relationship, just make sure you are healed before you date. Hashtag heal before you date. Because what's gonna happen is the time that you have alone, that's your self development time. That's where you get to learn more about yourself. That's when you get to get your finances straight. That's where you really get to figure out, okay, I can't be doing Chipotle dates every other week because that starts to add up. I can't really try to impress these people that I don't even know. Kendrick, I think last time we were talking about going on a date with a girl and she wants you to take her to a fancy restaurant. You don't even know, like, you don't even know her. You expect me to pay this much amount of money and I don't even know you. So self development is so key where you need to make sure that you are good, you're healed, you have everything in line. And that's the thing, you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to balance a scale. It's a ongoing process where you got to constantly do it every single day and be committed to it. So that's one thing I think it's hard being a man, especially a black man. We have so much pressure just to not mess up. And what happens is a lot of times is when you think about it too much, you are gonna mess up. You're thinking about, I'm not gonna drop the dishes. I'm not gonna drop the dishes. What happens? You drop
Mm,
the dishes. So we have to create a new, different mindset, shift the paradigm, and change the way we think, change the way we eat, and change the way we talk to ourselves. So, and therapy can definitely help you with that.
change the way we talk to ourselves. That
Hmm.
Man, we need to put that on repeat because so
I
many
say
of
it
us
again if you want me to. Just let me know. I say it again.
so many of us have this negative self talk. We see ourselves in the news. We see how people talk about our community, about our men, and then regardless of if it's a conscious thing, I think subconsciously in the back of many of our minds, we have some type of negativity. For example, if we go into some type of business meeting, oh, how are they going to portray me? Am I talking properly? Am I We have all those things. Am I going to mess up? Do I need to do X, Y, and Z? We have all these expectations, like you said, Grant, of needing and I could be wrong. You may have said needing to be on or making sure that we are um, uh, being correct, because if we're not, we have a very, very small margin of error to mess up. Um, Going over to Vince, what are your thoughts as far as why don't you think men talk or open up, or has your experience been different?
No, I'm definitely in agreement with everything. Only thing I do want to say is if we can, when we go back and edit this podcast, can we just put queens wherever Grant said girls? That's all. I just want to make sure. just
Must
just
have,
want
must
to
have.
want to cover that.
I'm the
I'm like,
youngest in
dang,
the group,
Grant.
so I'm still dealing with a couple girls, but y'all with the grown folks. Okay, I get it.
I'm
I'm
like,
just the
yo,
youngest.
Grant. Uh, yeah, man. Honestly, I would say that my experience is probably exactly the same. I feel like everybody can look back at some point in their lives and be like, "Damn, man, stuff would have been so different if somebody would have just told me this." Or if I would have known this, oh man, you know how different stuff would be if I would have known this. Like, I feel like there's so many moments where it's like, wow, if I just had a positive role model, if I just didn't go with the flow of what everybody else was doing, uh, my mental health could be even a little bit different. So I would say that again, it's probably just mainly stigma.
Mm.
We don't, I can't be soft, man. I can't open up. Still to this day in 2022, I'm sure there's plenty of black men that are like, nah, man, it's the shrink, I don't know what other names they call therapists and stuff like that. I ain't going to know. I ain't crazy, man. We talk about like I feel like that's still an active stereotype about not just black men but black people, lots of people. People don't necessarily want to go to therapy. Like I said, I'm very excited that I kind of give Gen Z some credit, man. They're very woke. They're very open, and the fact that it's becoming cool again to consider your mental health. I mean, some people are taking a little bit kind of far, like, oh, I need to meditate for this many days after social interaction. Everybody to each their own, obviously. But yeah, I think it's really beautiful that we can be open now, and somebody's just got to tap their brother on the shoulder and be like, yo, it's okay to tell me how you're doing.
Mm.
Like I think uh I'm gonna shout out a couple. Like I didn't know we was cussing on the podcast, you know what I'm saying? But there's a page that I follow that I don't turn the notifications on Instagram for that many places, but this one page I get a message from. If not every morning, then every other morning. It's called "Every Nigga Deserves," and it's literally just about how every nigga deserves love, man. It's a beautiful thing, and
We'll
it was
drop that
started.
in the chat for you guys. We'll drop it
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
you can
chat.
drop that. You can drop that. It was started, I'm pretty sure, by, and there's other ones like Black Men Healing, Black Mental Health, and stuff like that, where it's just a bunch of young black men that is just like, yo, I've been locked up in my room for a couple years now, and I didn't realize that I needed to have these conversations. Uh, again, we got a bunch of talkers on the call with us. Public speaking is the number one fear in the world, more than snakes, more than death. It's talking to people. It still blows my mind that I get to do this for free. People pay us for it still, but like literally just having a conversation is something that could change people's lives. Only reason that, at least to me, racism exists, so many other types of hatred, in terms of like, LGBTQ community, anything like that, is just because people don't have a full understanding of what those people are going through. Same conversation that we're having right now between black men, black women, or men and women in general. If we could, we speak different languages, so it's hard. But if we could just sit down and say, "Hey, look, this is my experience. This is how I feel about this. This is what I'm going through," and find a way, again, like Dr. E said, to remove the ego, maybe even some emotion out of it, just to be able to actively communicate and see if we can get a dialogue going. I think that's the best way to go about it.
Mhm.
I did want to shout out the show Black Love again because I watched it a few weeks ago, and just having the same. I think I mentioned this to you before, but just having the same conversation with my fiance about being open and vulnerable about certain things, and I was like, I feel like I'm pretty open. She gave me some credit also, but Kev on Stage is somebody I look up to. He's an actor, comedian, entrepreneur, YouTuber, if you will, and he's famously known, and my fiance loves Kev on Stage. I love him now because I'm familiar with his work and everything that he's building. But he's been with his wife for like 17 to 20 years or something like that. And he just recently in the last 2 years started like opening up to her and like crying in front of her. And it opened his world up. They've got like 3 kids. And for him to be like, what I'm saying? Not that
Mhm.
he's the toughest guy in the world, but you have to feel, I feel like there's something in us that is told, maybe again, all the images that we see growing up, there's something in us that says there's a wall. We the providers, we strong. We can't let nobody see no weakness. Superman, He-Man, whatever you want to call it. And it was just beautiful to see, like, again, an example of someone that I would consider to be somewhat similar to me. I'm not the most masculine guy in the world. Again, like we said, we do have a little, we open up our feminine side a little bit. It takes a little something to dance with people all the time and be happy. Uh, but to see him in a position where he's like, yo, I never even experienced this level of love before. And he's been married for like 17 years.
Mm.
Just having simple conversations or sharing a couple more tidbits about how I feel in this moment is something that I guess you won't know what it feels like until you're in that position. So that's something I encourage everybody to do.
100%. And going back to that communication piece, I mean, communication solves a lot of problems, solves a lot of issues. It solves just understanding, being able to understand what one person's going through versus another person. And too often, male or female or someone else, um, we don't speak. We have in our society, vulnerability is almost we are shamed for vulnerability, and I think that's one of the keys to why many men do not speak. But Dr. E, what are your thoughts as far as why many of us men don't speak on how we feel or what we go through?
Well, I want to piggyback off what Vince and Grant said real quick before I get into it. Now, Vince, you have made yourself fortunate to find yourself a queen, okay? But I'm sure she carries herself as a queen, and you are now giving her even more queendomship now that you have given her the ring.
Yes, sir.
Like Grant said, so all these girls ain't queens. Yeah, all these girls ain't queens. If they all queens, you got to give them something to aspire to, right?
It's true. You're right.
How to carry yourself. Don't just give them to like, oh, you the queen. Oh, whoa, what you the queen of? What you the queen of? Okay, I'm happy that you got a queen. I've been blessed to be able to date some queens. I met some queens, but not all of them. Okay, you know what I'm saying? And then, Grant, I felt like I've always felt like the way like, hey man, what's good with your hair? Like, what's up with the hairline? I felt like that is in our community a mental check-in. You see what I'm saying? Because
Mm,
it's not, again, it comes back to the sense of how men speak to each other, right? Like we can joke on each other like that, but also if we holding each other accountable, like, hey bro, what's going on right there? What you doing? How many donuts you had today? Because you holding each other accountable. You're not. It's not like it's like, hey, what's going on? That's like, man, I ain't been in the gym. I've been dealing with X, Y, and Z. Then you start talking about it because it's an easier way to break into that ice because that's how we could talk to each other about what was going on. It wasn't because we weren't raised with the, when we put the glasses on. So tell me, how are you feeling today? We want to know. It's like that's not how we was. That's not how how we was representing our community. So we don't know. Now therapy is a thing, but in terms of again going back to black mentorship with your camaraderie, your bros, like the other men that's there. That's how we gonna check in on. Like, hey, bro, what's going on with your pants? Why are you dressed? What's happening? And then that's when you actually open up.
Yeah.
So,
Dr. E, I have a question for you.
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I
No,
want to say,
no.
do you think there's a way in the black community where we can take that from being a little passive aggressive to be more direct? That way it can be more opened up. What's your thoughts on that?
What do you mean, like in terms
So
of what?
instead of me just saying like, "Oh, bro, I know," so let's say like I noticed that Kendrick was losing weight from going vegan or something, right? Instead of
Mhm.
just being like, "Hey, man, you look like a bone, like a sick of bones. Everything all right?" Do you ever feel like there's a way where black men can just cut out the BS and just be like, "Hey, bro, I've noticed you lost a little bit of weight. Everything's all right." Do you think we're in a position right now, or are we going in the right direction where we can just be more upfront with each other rather than just beating around the bush and doing that little camaraderie? Or do you think that's always going to be a part of us?
What I feel like for us as entertainers, you know, well, this goes back to two different things. In pursuing, when we're on stage, I treat the audience like a woman that I want. So I'm going to soften the blow a little bit. However, as men, we are direct, and then as comedians, we want to make people smile. So I feel like that's always going to be part of it for us. However, it's still direct. We're like, hey, bro, what's going on? You lose a little weight. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, majority of the folks in our community need to lose weight. So I'm sure that ain't gonna be, what I'm saying? Like, yeah, hey,
True.
what I'm saying? Like me, when I started losing weight, it was so funny, especially when I went vegan. My family looked at me like I had cancer. They was like, "What you mean you stop eating meat? What's wrong with you?" You know what I'm saying? But now they see the benefits, and like like even my mom, she's like, "I don't even eat the same way anymore. And it's because of you. Like I feel so much better. Yeah, I got on sea moss and all this other stuff." And so she talks about that, but I feel like we are direct, and I feel like you know majority of the time we're direct. I mean, we do that, but I feel like most of us who don't do that would be like, "Hey, bro, you getting pretty fat, dog. What's going on?" Or "Hey, man, you looking scruff." Like, what I'm saying? We'll say it jokingly, but we dead still like, "Hey, bro, why you choose to put them shoes on today? Like, you know where you going? Like, what's that? Have a seat. Let me talk to you for a sec." Like those are the kind of things that we're actually do. Like, oh, so you just ain't care about what you look like when you walked out the house today. That's the kind of thing.
Mm.
It's like, so why didn't you care? Why didn't you say, "Hey, you know what? I didn't care. I'm ashy in the mud." Why you ashy, bro? Why you ain't lotion in your hand?
I like that answer, and I guess that goes back to my main point. We have to change the way we speak to each other. So maybe being a little bit more sensitive. Do you ever think we could get to that point where weight's a very sensitive? I don't even tell y'all. Don't tell that to a female, but like in a male, I mean, we have feelings as well too. Do you ever feel like there's certain opportunities for us to be a little bit more sensitive? And that's my last question, Kendrick. Sorry, I'm going off tangent. Back to the regular scheduled program.
No, you're good.
I feel like you know who you're talking to. Me, from being 375 pounds before, I would never be sensitive to somebody who's fat because I was fat, but I was fat and happy. There's a difference. I was fat and happy, and I wasn't like, oh, I'm so fat, I'm depressed. I was just fat, and I was big, and then I made a decision to change, and I knew that the things I was doing was wrong. So I'd be like, listen, if I see somebody in the gym and they're working out, and I know they're working out, they going hard, and then I see them later on trying to get something like, hey man, hey, what's all that work for in the gym? What you doing that for? If you just gonna come back and eat this Long John Silver, it's like what's the point? You know what I'm saying? Like like I realized I had to get to a point where then I could do it, and there's the balance, right? But again, that was all a guiding for me. So I feel like you know who you're talking to. You know if you can be harsh. You know how to approach him. Like if you got to be and sometimes I feel like we are men, and there are ways that we're going to say things because we're not women. We're not going to say them the way that women say.
Mm.
We can soften it as much as we can. Like I've softened things that I thought I said it pretty softly, and then it was like, oh my god, I was like, well, what I really wanted to say was, and it's the whole completely like I was definitely about to come in like looking pretty fat, bro. Like what's going, you know what I'm saying? And I'm using weight because I can talk about that. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's talking about weight right now, but even even still, like or like hair or anything like that. Like I love black women's hair. I love natural hair, right? I love black women's hair, and I love and and like now I just I don't think I can date somebody who wears weave regularly, right?
Mm.
But I see that there is a stigma that's plagued the black woman in our community, where they say you don't know what it takes. It's so hard to manage my hair, and I stop them immediately and say, "Who told you your hair needs to be managed?"
Ooh.
I stop it immediately and ask them that. And I said, you got to understand, if you was never raised watching your mom do her natural hair or watching aunt do her natural hair, we're getting into this natural hair process now. It's like, but you got to stop saying it's too much to manage because it would just be a process. It would just be something to do if it was something you grew up doing. But if, to relax your hair, like you don't want to talk about it. But remember now, my mom had to put a perm in her hair to make her hair, then to go and curl her hair. But black women's hair is already naturally curly,
Mm.
and it's like that's just like one of the most horrific things that they had did to our community in terms of which our women felt like they couldn't wear the natural hair because it wasn't kept. And black, I love natural hair. Like if I see it's electric, like you know what I'm saying, not just electric slide, but like it's like you know what I'm saying when it's out there. I'm like I see a girl with her natural fro, I'm like what's up? Where you going with that fro? You know what I'm saying? And so I always bring it up if I see a girl wearing weave, like, because obviously black women are so versatile, they can wear whatever they want. But
Mm.
if that's the majority of what they wear, and God, I love that meme. It's a meme. It's like when Shawty laying on your chest and her hair smell like Easter egg, Easter basket grass or something. That thing made me laugh so hard, boy. I said, not the Easter basket
Yeah.
grass. Oh,
But
but
I want to get to and sorry to cut you off. I would just want to
nah.
make sure again because we're running low on
Oh yeah, yeah,
time
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and back on the original question as far as why men don't speak and so just to kind of wrap things up, uh, the my perspective and one thing that I think as far as like why a lot of us men don't talk about what we truly feels because we are afraid that it'll get used against us when we are in romantic relationships. And so what I mean by that is, if us men are going through struggles at work, we're dealing with mental health and we're having situations with our relationships, I think that regardless of how we word things, we then are viewed differently than we were prior. So if we open up just Pandora's box on how we feel and all the things we go through, in my opinion, I think that our partner naturally just views us differently because now we don't look as strong as we used to be. And I think people can say like, "Oh no, we won't use it against you." I think it's just maybe something naturally in us as far as human behavior. And so people go ahead, Dr. E, what were you gonna say?
That's exact. Like that goes back to the same thing. Like a woman can never understand what a black man
Mm,
has to go through
mm,
because like we can see a woman cry. She could break down. She could be on the floor bawling her eyes out. We won't use it against her. But immediately, already in the question itself, we're already viewed as less in our minds and in their minds because they can't grasp that concept yet. That's what
100%.
goes back to like I love Kev on stage too. Actually, I was gifted his class. If you hadn't gotten it yet, it was good. It was the social media class that he has. It was actually really good. But it took him 20 years to get to that point where he could do that. I feel like you have to get in the space, and again, depends on if you choose the right queen who can be able to receive you sharing your thing. Because you got to understand, if you're gonna live in that same house to be in that same space, you should be able to do that. But not
Right.
it takes a privilege. Me sharing my real emotions, my deep emotions, is a privilege. Not only that, majority of women talk more than they listen. So we're normally listening to them a lot. So we're not given the opportunity to share, or majority of the time, because we're listeners, we are dealing with the brunt of whatever their day is or whatever they're going through. So I feel like for us, I'm a people pleaser. So for me, it's like, how can I shoulder anything for you if you giving me all this stuff that you're going through? How can
Mm,
I lean? How can I lean into the stuff that I have on you right now? I feel like it's unfair. And when you put it in that perspective, then it's like, again, you have to have a 50-50, but still you got to go back to say, there has to come a time where it is a place where I can share mine. But it's, again, I feel like it's still a privilege.
right, right. Yeah, and that's the thing. Going back to vetting our partners, making sure our partners are coming with positive energy. Toxic partners will definitely use that against us if we open up. They will definitely use that against us. But just to wrap things up, we had great discussion around just mental health, relationships, what we go through in the Black community, and why many of us men don't share. Obviously, we could probably go for another hour with this conversation because there's still things that we could dive into that may be a part two down the road. But there are things that us men will always go through no matter how much we go to therapy, no matter how loving our partners are. I think it's just from a societal standpoint, we as men put a lot of pressures on ourselves to perform and to make sure that the partner we are with, they are, making sure that they're good with their mental health, physical, spiritual, and making sure the household is healthy. The conversation is a must that we need to continue having in our community because so many of our homes are broken in the Black community, and so many of our young Black men are broken because they are looking at broken images of what a healthy relationship or partnership is supposed to be like. So I definitely appreciate all three of you sharing your perspectives, being vulnerable, and sharing, the things that you've gone through. With all of that being said, before we wrap things up, I want to start with Grant. Do you have any last or final thoughts on the conversation today?
Man, like I've been talking about, man, hashtag heal before you date. Yeah, man, you're always gonna hear from me. You got to know yourself before you can know others. That's why I studied psychology and like college and stuff. I want to know how the mind works, but I want to know how my mind works first. So make sure that you guys are really tapping into what you know and what you love, and see how you operate, see how you tick. That way you can understand yourself, and then you can put yourself in a position to know how someone else works. But you gotta know yourself first.
I love it. I appreciate it. Vince.
Yo, yo. I don't want this to sound like the He-Man Woman Haters Club. Like, great advice going on in here. I did want to say, if anything, if we're closing out, I did want to recommend some cards I found on Amazon. These are specifically love lingual cards, because we do speak different languages, man. If you can find any cards that will help you to have a conversation, just to get on the same page, or again, therapy, any type of therapeutic type of stuff like that that would help y'all to get in a place where you can have a conversation on the same level, I think is very, very beneficial. I did want to get this story out real quick. I just yesterday was with my fiance. We were walking, we're just going for a walk in the neighborhood. She was wearing like something. It was nice. It was nice, but it was like workout material, and we were coming up on some construction workers. It was like super stereotypical. Coming up on some construction workers, and she's like, "They're on the corner," and I'm like, "Would you like to cross the street?" She's like, "I'm so happy that you said that." Communication, y'all. So she's like, "I think I would probably want to be looked at less than you want them to look at me," and I'm like, that's a very interesting point, because I'm a fan of Eric Bellinger. His One of his most popular songs to me. If they ain't looking, I don't want her. You know what I'm saying? That's my jam. But I really was like, hey, my baby out here rocking it. You know what I'm saying? Let me, let me. These guys looking thirsty on the corner. Let's go over here. So she walks behind the car. I'm over here doing the where you going? What you doing? Like trying to block her from being seen. It worked mostly, but that was just a moment that we shared that I was just like, I did not want all these guys staring at your butt. You know what I'm saying? it's gonna happen whether I'm there or not sometimes anyway. But just the thought that oh man, here we go again. Like we said about, we don't understand the struggle that women go through, just like they don't understand our struggle. Like,
Yeah.
what if all these dudes was like, yo, we want to see her butt, let's fight. Like then I'm in a completely different place. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I say all that to say, communicate the best way you possibly can, and rub a dub dub them feets every once in a while, y'all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. E, final thoughts.
Them feet. Speaking of, listen, I got this one too. It's called the Hand Couples Edition. So
Yes.
this is where it's real good. This is called from skindeep.com. So www.theskindeep.com. They got some really good questions. I got this one and like there's a comment on it, but this one is specifically for couples. But those questions are real good. It really makes you think. So I definitely recommend using those, man. I love this conversation today. Again, we should come back and and delve into this. If the comments say that they want to hear more, we should go back and delve into those comments and more focal if we have to. But yeah, I love being part of it. Black is excellence in all realms and all spectrums, and it should be safe to be a black man, especially in a room of black men. So I feel like we have to remember that in a room of black men, you can be safe to be a black man.
Mhm.
We're all dealing with it.
Mhm.
It just sometimes you feel like you got to pick the right room, but you don't know unless you speak. You got to say something in that room to decide whether or not you're in that right room. So yeah, I appreciate being part of the conversation. I hope we can come back. Like I said, if the comments wanted, then we can delve into it more. So I thank you again.
For sure, for sure. And I appreciate you being here. How can our listeners go out and follow you and in some of the future work that you're doing?
They can follow me on Instagram at Reverend_Doctor_E. You can see me in your living room if you're on Netflix. You got Netflix. You can watch me on The Circle season 4. I'm on there, and other than that, I'm everywhere else I got to be.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Vince, how can everybody go out and follow you? Check out some of the future work that you're doing as well.
Yo, Vince Bracy on everything. I don't use Facebook, but feel free to add me on there. Instagram, Vince Bracy. Twitter, Vince Bracy. LinkedIn, Vince Bracy. Cash App, Vince Bracy. I'm getting married. Don't forget, I'm getting married this year. Cash App me, Vince Bracy. If anybody needs any assistance with building their LinkedIn profile or getting closer to following their dreams, those are things that I'm working on myself, like a passion project. Please feel free to hit me up on any of those social medias. Feel free to reach out because we talked about my baby and the love and the relationships all day today. At the Jazzvin Show on YouTube as well. We talk about, we do couple stuff, but we also talk about the show Married at First Sight, which is a crazy, crazy show in itself. We also have discussed The Circle. So hopefully I'm manifesting you seeing me on season 5 or 6 of The Circle on Netflix. But yeah, thanks again, Kendrick. This was awesome, man.
Manifest it, baby. That's what we got to do. I appreciate you.
Thank you, man.
Grant, how can the followers go out and follow you and some of the future work that you're doing?
Yes, you got to manifest your dreams like we're talking about right in the shirt. Shout out to Vince Bracy. You can follow me on social media, GJ Entertainer. You can also go to grantjonesentertainment.com. I do a lot of stuff. Check out on Instagram tomorrow. I'll be posting a little comedy clip I did. I do impressions. Chris Rock at the Oscars reaction. See how I think Chris Rock will react in his next stand-up comedy. Yeah, you can follow me at GJ Entertainer on Instagram. All right.
Love it, fellas. I love it, fellas. And you can follow me Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Kendrick Coates, KENDRIQUE, Coates, COATS. I'm also a life coach and working towards becoming a licensed marriage and family therapist. So if any of you all have any questions, if you're trying to work through anything, if you just want to reach out to me to get my perspective on some of the things that you're going through, feel free to reach out to me on those platforms. I'd be more than happy to connect with you to assist in any way that I can. Again, powerful conversation today for young black men trying to carve out our path to excellence. And we want to be the example for our community. That's one of the things that many of our younger black men need is we need examples from our generation to provide to them. If you like this episode, feel free to leave a comment. Are there other topics that you would like us to talk about? Feel free to follow us on social and feel free to share this video with anybody else that you think could gain value from. We thank you for your time. We thank you for viewing, and we will be back for another episode. Until next time, take care.